here's a couple concepts that I want you to think about. First, we're going to talk about globally how I want you to think about being able to focus your attention and get things done. Okay? And this is on a day-to-day basis. First of all, when I talk about productivity and the ability to focus your attention on a day-to-day basis, I want you to understand a simple fact. In order to get things done, in order to direct your focus and move through a task, you are going to require some brain power. And so I want you to think about your brain like a car engine, right? And a car engine is what you need in a car to power you forward. And your brain is like an engine that will power you forward to help you get tasks done. Now, an engine requires fuel, right? And sure enough, your brain has a certain amount of fuel. So imagine that you got like a tank that has fuel in it in your brain, okay? And as you wake up and as you go through your day and as you direct your attention on things, guess what happens to that fuel in your brain? It starts to drain. And so I want you to know this because the tactics and the tools that I'm about to teach you relate to the fuel in your brain and what times of day you have the most fuel. What times of day you are more likely to be able to focus, okay? And what do you think, everybody, is the best time of day for your brain and for the amount of fuel that you have in your brain naturally in order to be able to tap into it and drive your focus at something that's important to you? I love this. You guys are right. Laura says my brain is mush by the end of the day. Everybody's saying morning, morning, morning. I see somebody saying, I feel like I'm on empty. This is a really good analogy because there are times where you feel like your brain is full of gas and you're able to direct your attention and focus. And then there are times where you're like, Jesus, I feel like I'm running on empty. I'm running on fumes here. And you're absolutely right, everybody. It is mornings. When you wake up, generally what the research shows is that your brain is primed to be able to focus for the first 4 hours of the day. The first 4 hours of the day tend to be, for most of us, the time of day when your brain has the most fuel and when your speed of processing is awesome and when you are able to direct your attention at what you need to be focused on, okay? So now there's a caveat to this. You can manufacture boosts of productivity and boosts of feeling like you've got a little bit more brain power. Number one, immediately after you exercise. So if you have a burst of cardio, 30 minutes is what a lot of the research says. But if you have a burst of cardio, you will get a little bit of increase in fuel. Another thing that helps is getting outside. Getting outside when you start to feel your energy and your focus start to go to empty, getting outside is another way to give yourself a boost of brain power. But generally speaking, everybody, you need to start to marry mornings with peak productivity, okay? This is true for most of us. There will be some of you that are like, I don't know what you're talking about, Mel Robbins, because I feel like my brain is full at the end of the day. If that's you, because I see some of you going, well, that's nighttime for me. You got to run with that. And you got to save the most important stuff for those moments where naturally you feel like you've got the energy and you got the fuel in the tank to be able to focus. So kind of like, you think, what do you think of when I say the word salt? You think of pepper. What do you think of when I say the word peanut butter? You probably think of jelly. When I say the word productivity and focus, for most of us, I want you to start thinking morning. And here's why that's important. The reason why that's important is because if you can own your mornings, if you can put that thing that matters to you first thing in the morning and make a little bit of progress on it, you are going to start to feel like you are more in control. You're going to start to see yourself using your best brain power and your highest level of fuel at the thing that matters most to you. So that's a little tip for you about productivity. Try to attack the thing that matters to you first thing in the morning, before you jump on your phone, before you answer emails, before you start attacking a to-do list that's full of shit you don't really care about, before you look at social media. Direct your brain when your fuel level is high and your focus is clear at the thing that matters to you. And it's not just because it makes sense that you would want to do this. I mean, the second you look at email, your stress level goes through the roof, your attention gets hijacked. But it's also because, based on research, literally your margin for error increases. You know, they did this research with anesthesiologists. And do you know that the number of errors increase as the day goes on? The number of errors that we see in hospitals increase almost 3 times from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. From 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. Hand washing decreases in hospitals, and that also relates to problems in the day. Now, look, the margin of error is very small. But what happens as you go through your day, particularly if you're not getting outside to increase the fuel in your brain and kind of reset your ability to focus, particularly if you're not introducing cardio, which also increases the fuel in the brain and helps you focus, is that your ability to maintain concentration as your fuel level decreases and your brain power decreases and the distractions increase and the number of things that you're trying to remember increase, your ability to laser focus decreases. That's why mornings matter, everybody, when it comes to focus and when it comes to human error, when it comes to distraction. This isn't just research. This is common sense. And, you know, this is not to slight anybody that is working in a hospital, because those folks are angels, particularly after this pandemic, and the margin of error is puny. But when we look at even a puny margin of error over the course of a day, and of the decrease in brain power and the increase in information that your brain is absorbing, geez Louise, it does increase 3x. So you want to prioritize what's important to you first thing in the morning. And you know how I feel about the phone, everybody. Do not look at that damn thing until you have literally figured out what matters to you and you've made a little bit of progress. Today, we're going to focus on the components of a $1 million morning routine. And these are all based on research. And the thing I want you to think about is this. I really believe in something called behavioral activation therapy. And said very simply, behavioral activation therapy is the concept that if you want to change, if you want to be a better you, just start acting like the person that you want to be in the future right now in your day-to-day life. That the actions that you take today are what will turn you into the person that you want to become. And look, I know you have a vision for yourself. There is a version of you that you hold in your heart and in your mind that you see that is a better version of the person than you are right now. The you that has a better, more fulfilling job or career. The you that is truly enjoying a deeper connection in your relationship or marriage. The you that has better eating habits, better physical habits. The you that really is experiencing a better connection to the meaning and purpose in your life. That life that you envision, you're capable of achieving it. You can do the work to make that version of yourself a reality, but it's not going to happen out of thin air. You got to put in the work. And I personally believe that that work begins first thing in the morning. That every single morning you can wake up and experience a clean slate. You can wake up and you can create a morning routine. Not that the you right now likes, but the morning routine that the future you needs. And the bottom line is, whether you consider yourself to be a morning person or not, A morning routine is essential. A morning routine is like the first domino. Let's just agree that every single day of your life, you wake up and you have the opportunity to create a new experience in your life. And that first series of decisions that you make, which are basically your morning routine, it's like the beginning domino that falls. And if your morning routine sucks, like my morning routine used to suck, the first domino that falls in your day is procrastination, stress, anxiety, depression, suckiness. And that tends to trigger a whole lot more of that. Now, let's talk about the other option. Have you ever had a morning where you rolled out of bed because you had to be somewhere? You actually met a friend at the gym, and the exercise class was not only not that bad, it was kind of fun, and you felt really energized and proud of yourself for going, and you were set up for the meeting that you had, you were prepared. What's it like when that domino falls? It feels good, doesn't it? It makes you feel confident and alive and proud of yourself. It kind of creates this energy and this motion in your life. And that brings me to a simple statement. The solution to almost all the problems in your life is your morning routine. If you were to get serious about creating a morning routine that makes you feel like $1,000,000, that sets you up with the structure and momentum and positive choices that act like a domino, that send you into your day feeling like you have started the day off with a bang, checking the right boxes, getting it done, feeling proud, putting yourself first. Imagine how the rest of your day flows. You see, how you set your day up is how it ends up. Say it again. How you set your day up is how it ends up. And if you are serious about making more money or making change stick or getting things done or just feeling happier or finally learning how to put yourself on the list, let's get laser focused on your morning routine. Because when you get laser focused on your morning routine and setting yourself up for success from the get go, it's pretty amazing what flows from there. And so before we get into the components of my $1,000,000 morning, I want to tell you about the Old Mel. And for those of you that listened to the episode that we did about how to create an evening routine that truly sets you up for success in the morning, you have heard part of this. But the Old Mel was a complete flipping disaster. I don't even recognize the sad sack of a human being that I used to be. I was addicted to my excuses. I was addicted to my alcohol at night. I was addicted to feeling miserable and to complaining about my problems. In fact, you want to know the first decision I made every single day for years? Decades, in fact. The very first decision that the old Mel Robbins used to make, I'd hit the snooze button. Now let's just stop and unpack that, okay? You wake up, the alarm goes off, the sun is out, you have a brand new day in front of you. There are people around the world that died in the middle of their sleep last night. They didn't get another day. But you, my friend, you got another day. And instead of waking up, getting up, making the most of the next 24 hours of your life, you know what the old Mel Robbins used to do? Eh. Hitting the snooze button is procrastination in its biggest form. But you're not procrastinating on a paper. You're not procrastinating on a project. You're not procrastinating on a call or a chore. You're procrastinating on your fucking life. You're basically going, the first decision I'm going to make today in this miraculous thing called life is to not do it. I'm just going to avoid it altogether.
I have the option to make the most of this time. I have the option to put myself first. I have the option to move my body, to practice mindfulness, to go outside and listen to the birds. But you know what I think I'm going to do? I think I'm going to procrastinate. I think I'm going to avoid it. I think I'm going to roll over. I think I'm going to just opt out. And for me, I can now see that since the first decision I made was to avoid doing what I needed to do, it's so fucking obvious why I was a chronic procrastinator, because I began every day like that. And as you hit the snooze button and you avoid facing your life and you avoid facing the day, you're not feeling confident. You're not feeling energized. You're not feeling in control and empowered. You are basically embodying your excuses, your fears, your anxiety, your frustration, your fatigue. It all begins with the decision you make first thing in the morning. I believe that. And the reason why I'm being overly dramatic about this is because one of my biggest problems in life is that I avoided the hard stuff. I had a million reasons why I couldn't fix things or get a new job or pay off my bills or why I couldn't make things better or why my husband was to blame. And so if you're sick of your excuses, if you're sick of snoozing on your dreams, if you are sick and tired of letting procrastination and doubt and overthinking and anxiety run your life, let's talk about your fucking morning routine. Because let me tell you what the life of a chronic snooze button person looks like. It begins in the morning. You hit the snooze button 4 or 5 times. That was me. I'd stare at the ceiling, think about my problem, snooze, snooze, snooze. And the rest of the day, guess what else I was doing? Snooze, snooze, snooze on the problems. Avoiding the phone call I needed to make. That's hitting the snooze button on that. Avoiding the networking I needed to do. That's hitting the snooze button there. Avoiding the hard conversation I needed to have. That's hitting the snooze button there. Blowing off the gym. Another snooze button. It's not just about how you wake up. It's how you wake up, how you set up the day. That's how it ends up. The snooze button, that is just one example of the series of disastrous choices I would make for myself. Whether it was hitting the snooze button 5 or 6 times, waking up late, not giving myself enough time, skipping breakfast, never having time to exercise, never being organized about anything. It was just honestly a nightmare. And I always say you are one decision away from a different life. And one of the things that has changed my life is deciding that I didn't want to do that anymore. That hitting the snooze button every single morning was not going to help me change my life. So when I finally got serious about first getting out of bed, and then secondly, creating a small series of promises that I make and keep to myself every single morning. It was a game changer.
In this video, I'm going to show you the specific way that you can use the 5-second rule to increase your productivity. Now, first, let's talk a little bit about productivity as a concept. Productivity is not about blasting through your to-do list and doing more. It's actually about doing less. Productivity is the ability to make progress on the things that matter to you. It sounds simple, right? I mean, just move the ball down the field on the important stuff. But it's not easy. Why? Blame your feelings. You see, you're capable of being more productive. You're just waiting to feel like doing what you need to do. And guess what? You're never going to crack the whip on yourself when you have a million other things that you need to do and you got people that are making demands on you. One thing that you must understand is that you have the power to decide what's important. And productivity actually boils down to simple 5-second decisions. Here's one that you need to start making immediately that will have a tremendous impact on your ability to be productive. When the alarm goes off, do you wake up early to work on your business, or do you blow it off because you don't feel like it, you're tired? Or do you stick to the plan to finish some important tasks, or do you mainline Facebook instead because, you'd just rather relax? When you change your decisions, you'll change everything. Because productivity boils down to the ability to make small 5-second decisions that put the things that are important first. And here's one 5-second decision that will make you more productive than any other. Get up 30 minutes earlier than you normally do and push yourself to work on the most important priorities first. This isn't just me. Research shows that your most productive hours are the first 2 to 3 hours after you wake up and get ready. This means that for peak productivity, you've got to do whatever you can do to make sure the most important work to you gets done first during that window of time. So here's how you're going to use the rule. The moment your alarm goes off and you want to hit the snooze button, use the rule. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, push yourself out of bed. Then use the rule again. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Sit down and get working on the things that matter to you instead of checking your phone, instead of letting your day get hijacked. You see, the moment you feel yourself wanting to give in to distraction, you're going to use the rule again. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Do assert control and get back on task to the things that matter to you. It doesn't really matter how busy you are. We're all busy. If you really care, you'll find the time. And that's how you're going to use the rule, to find the time to work on things that matter to you. This is what Rachel did. She wanted to change her life, so she decided to make progress on what was important. And she did this by starting with getting up earlier, getting out of bed, and 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, focusing on what mattered. And as you can see, that small 5-second decision, getting up 30 minutes earlier, started a chain of events that changed her entire life. She lost 30 pounds, she bought her first home, and she reinvigorated her marriage. Why? The reason why is because she learned how to beat the feelings and excuses that stopped her, and she found the time to work on things that matter. That is the definition of productivity. Getting the important stuff done only works when you push yourself to do it. And when you push yourself, 5-second decision, to wake up earlier and start your day off right, you will be shocked by what changes it ignites.
Shame causes paralysis. When you start to make yourself wrong and you feel paralyzed, you are likely in shame. Self-compassion, I'm allowed to be human. I'm doing exactly what I need to, which is processing all this emotion. A little bit later, maybe I can wash one outfit or I can throw some water on my face. But right now, I'm just going to give myself the rest that I need because I deserve to process this. That is a life-changing distinction, and you now know kind of the emotional feel of both. One is paralysis, that's shame, and that's the beat down. And we want you to get out of that cycle and to use this mantra. You talk about it a lot. I'm allowed to be human.
I am. I'm allowed to be human. And we talk a lot about like nobody has to be perfect, but in our head, we still have categories of acceptable imperfection and unacceptable imperfection.
What are some of the big categories that you see in your work that people say are unacceptable categories? We covered not brushing your teeth, but what are unacceptable categories?
Like being mean to somebody.
What do you mean?
Like if you were rude or you were mean to someone, or if you blew a huge deadline, if you didn't show up to something that was really important and now you look absolutely ridiculous in front of your whole profession. Like things where you've upset someone or someone's angry with you or you've let someone down. And we're not saying that was, let's repeat it, because it's not functional. We're not saying that people don't get to have their feelings about whatever you did or said or however you showed up. It's just that like I can make like a genuine bona fide mistake, and it can be very wrong of me to have done, and I still get to be human. Humans do very wrong things sometimes. And what I want to respond to it by going, okay, I don't like that. I don't want to do that again. How can I grow and heal so that I can move away from that? And I think that that's kind of what it comes down to. And if you're someone who finds yourself in this state chronically, that's when we want to start thinking about accessibility. How can I make my home more accessible? How can I make these tasks more accessible? Because there's a difference between, I'm 9 months pregnant for only 3 months and it's hard for me to bend over. And so things just kind of pile up and I just let it because I have the right priorities and it'll get. But if you're someone with chronic back pain, that's not really something you can just go, well, it'll just pile up and I'll get to it when I feel better, right?
Right.
That's when we need to think a little long term, which is like, well, maybe you need a grabber.
What's a grabber?
Like a grabber.
I don't know what a grabber is.
If you've ever had like surgery and you can't like reach up or reach down, you like pull the handle and it's a long stick and there's like a little tongs at the end that pick things up for you.
Wow.
Maybe you need a
We're
stool
so
with
bitty.
some
We're so,
wheels.
what I'm getting from you, Casey, is that when you get caught in this loop where everything's a moral obligation and everything that you're not doing is evidence that you're a loser and that you can't get yourself together, you get so stuck in making it a problem that you don't see the obvious solutions that are right in front of your face if you were to simply just give yourself a frickin' break.
Yes, because if what's wrong with you is that you're failing, the only solution is try harder. But if the issue isn't some moral failure, then you trying harder on the same kind of broken wheels isn't going to produce anything else. So, but if you go, this is a morally neutral problem, but I deserve to function. How can I get creative? How can I fix this? All of a sudden, the world opens up and there's all of these creative possibilities. Can I stop folding my clothes? Can I use paper plates for a bit? Can I get a wheelie stool? Can I get a grabber? Can I, can I do a toy library for my kids where 2/3 of their toys stay in this closet and they only have some of their toys out and they can check them in and out as much as they want, but then right? Like all of a sudden you have so many ideas. What if I had a 32-gallon trash can on wheels in my kitchen instead of these tiny little trash cans? Because my kids, I seem to fill up trash cans twice a day and I don't seem to take out trash enough to keep up with it. And so most of us think, well, the answer is make yourself take the trash out, make yourself more motivated, but what if we focus less on that and there was just a simple upgrade the trash can to be bigger?
It's so great. I was recently thinking about how much we aim criticism at who you are. I got to be more motivated. There's something wrong with me. Instead of looking at, well, what are you doing? And what could I change about what I'm doing? Like putting a bigger trash can on wheels in the space instead of making 55 trips every day. And where things are. Like what is it about the environment? What is it about the way that you're thinking about things? I want to give you a couple of our listeners sort of challenges and role play a little bit with you about what hacks or mindset flips or what you would want them to do as a first step.
Yeah, let's do it.
One listener writes, in the midst of my son's autism diagnosis, every single task felt like it would kill me. I had to talk myself through everything step by step to avoid the anxiety for months. When somebody's in that kind of a state, I felt, I said this about 18 months ago out loud. I can't handle one more thing. If one more thing breaks down in my life, if one more bad thing happens, you're going to have to check me in to an inpatient facility. I can't handle one more thing. She was talking herself through coaching step by step by step. What's another strategy somebody could use?
So we want to start with the perspective, which is I would say to this person, we often picture a highway as life and these sort of like side roads as like not life. And we're off on the side road with a broken car kind of going, well, I'm pushing the car and I just want to get back to life. This isn't how it's supposed to, I can't. And I think it's more helpful to envision that like, there's not this like mystical place of life where everybody's running on like firing on all cylinders. Like life is in fact getting an autism diagnosis for your child and needing to process through that and just figuring out how we move forward. There's nothing that this person is doing wrong. They are using so much cognitive, emotional energy to process this diagnosis. I would also just say from a personal perspective that your son's going to be okay. Your autistic child can have a very happy, full life, and so can you. And so you're going to be okay. You're not doing anything wrong. You are not supposed to be able to do more than what you're capable of doing now. And you're right. What can we do to keep things survival, level functional while you get through this? And that's when I would say, if this person, first off, I want this person to start using paper plates immediately. I want paper plates. I want paper napkins. I want you to be able to throw everything away right after a meal. I want you to, as much as your budget allows, outsource anything you can, whether that's cleaning or laundry or grocery delivery. I want you to pick one tiny corner of your house that you can make beautiful and you can get it beautiful in under 5 minutes. And that's where you get to go and sit when you just can't look at anything else. I want you to make a hygiene kit for yourself with baby wipes and dry shampoo and something that smells nice. And I want you to go on Amazon and I want you to buy those toothbrushes that are single-use toothbrushes that are pre-pasted in individual packages. And I want you to put little hygiene kits all around your house because you're just going to be in the middle of it and smell yourself and go, oh gosh. And then you'll never be more than a few steps away from ability to take care of yourself when you can't leave your child alone in the room. I want you to put a laundry basket and a trash can in every room of your house so that anytime you create laundry or trash, you're only a few steps away from being able to be done with it in one step, not 3, 4, 5 steps. And I want you to rest.
I feel like that's what your best friend would do for you.
Mm-hmm.
What you just did was beautiful. And I think it's also an extraordinarily tactical example of your space should serve you. And so is the visual of the highway. So I'm thinking about one of our daughters who is, just processing a breakup. And she sounded so good today. This is like 24 hours. And she's like, yeah, but I'll be crying probably in an hour because that's my process.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to take myself on a walk and I'm not going to force myself to do anything today. And as I was listening to her, I'm like, wow, that's exactly right. You don't have to motor through it. You don't have to get on a revenge diet. You don't have to gossip about it all day. You can just take a step back and allow yourself to be human. I have another listener that says personal care. I get completely overwhelmed by taking care of myself. I hate how I look and I hate how I feel because nothing ever changes.
So I'm going to assume that this person maybe is talking about, I hate how I look physically. So I have a lot of body consciousness, things like that. So the first thing I would say there is that if that is somehow related to difficulty in showering and doing things like that, because that happens. I don't want to see myself naked in the shower. We're just going to cover the mirrors. You don't need to look in the mirror to shower. I want you to get a smaller pocket mirror so that when you want to put your makeup on, when you want to check a zit, when you want to look at your hair, you can do that in pieces as you need to, but you don't have to look at yourself all day long. And I'm not saying, oh, that's going to cure the way you feel about yourself, but I am saying that's going to give you some relief today. You should be able to have a place in your life where you get to exist without constantly pondering how you look. Where you can have a first-person experience of life, not a third-person experience where you're always sort of going, what do I look like when I do this? What do I look like when I do that? Then, depending on what this is, but this is a good one. One thing, and again, I'd have to know more about this person, but this is just sort of a tangential thing, is that I go into your closet and get rid of the things that you bought because you don't think that your body deserves clean, cute clothes. The things you bought just because it covers you, the matronly shit that you bought because you don't think that you deserve to wear XYZ now. Get rid of the things that are 3 sizes too small that you'll never fit into again, but you're going, oh, one day. Like, let's address your closet, because what I found is a lot of times when I was disliking my body, it was not information I was getting from my body, it was information that I was getting from my clothes. It didn't look right on me. It didn't fit right on me. Well, they're clothes. Your body is not made to fit clothes. Clothes are made to fit your body.
Hallelujah. Casey Davis dropping the knowledge again. Say it again.
Your body is not meant to fit into clothes. Clothes are meant to fit your body.
You know, I'm going through menopause, and I know a lot of you see me and you are like, you're really skinny. But my body has freaking changed. And the things that fit me 2 years ago don't fit. I was wearing a pair of jeans yesterday that I absolutely love. They got cute little like cargo things on the side legs. The waist is so damn tight. And I thought to myself, why am I holding on to these? Because I'm waiting for my menopause middle to go down. And yet I'm sitting here in basically a tourniquet around my waist. And it's reminding me all day long that I'm changing and I'm aging. And that makes me feel like something's wrong. And there are, I would say, half of my closet has clothes in it that I actually cannot fit into. And it does, when I walk in, remind me of where I'm not. And I love the analogy that you gave about the fact that life is not like all these little side roads, and some days you're going to get back to the highway. I'm on the leg of the journey at mile 54 with the mile marker, and there's a lot of clothes in this closet that need to be taken out of the trunk of the car that I'm driving and left on the side of the road or in a donation bin because they're not a part of this stretch of the road trip called life.
And I would also tell that person that you don't have to care about yourself in order to begin caring for yourself.
Ooh, say that again.
You do not have to care about yourself in order to begin how to learn to tenderly care for yourself. So many times we feel as though we don't deserve to be clean, or we don't deserve cute clothes, we don't deserve that shower, we don't deserve to get up and do these things. And I think that when we look at that belief system of I have to wait to like myself before I start treating myself a certain way, it actually happens backwards. We begin with self-compassion and tenderness to care for ourselves, and slowly but surely it helps us to begin to care about ourselves. And I kind of liken this to, if you go to the pound right now and pick up a dog, like, you could pick up the rattiest dog there. There is no dog that's like, oh, this dog deserves XYZ. No, you can go pick up the most behavior-prone, yappy, dirty, flea-infested dog, and you bring it home. And why do you care for that dog? Because you just decided to. You literally just decided that dog is going to be, you're going to care for that dog. You just decided it was worthy. The dog didn't have to do anything.
Can we break this into just a simple series of actions? Because so many people around the world look in the mirror and see a person that they do not like. In fact, in the research that we did for the High Five Habit, 50% of men and women don't even look at themselves in the mirror. And for somebody that feels such a low level of self-worth that they're unworthy, intellectually, they can get that you can start caring for yourself in a kind and loving way before you feel like you care about yourself. But what are one or two actions for someone listening that gets that intellectually but doesn't know how to put that into physical practice?
Sure. So I think one of the things to remember is that self-esteem is really overrated, and it's actually not connected to like better outcomes in how you feel. That it's self-compassion that is connected to better outcomes in your life. And that's great, because self-compassion doesn't require that you like yourself, because we can show compassion to people we don't like. I do it all the time. I would also say that if you were looking for an action to do,
yes,
some of the things that we've talked about, I think would work, like the hygiene kits, and just like making things easier for yourself is in itself an act of compassion. It's saying I deserve to access this task. But I also want that person to pick one thing, one little like weird bugaboo about their morning. And I want it to be inconsequential. I don't want it to be big. I want it to be something like, I don't like the way that my feet are cold when I walk from my bed to my bathroom. Or I don't like when I wake up and I have to be chilly when I take the dog out first thing in the morning. I don't like that I have to sit there and make like something really simple. Mm-hmm. And I want you to pick that one thing, and I want you to start doing it for yourself at night.
Meaning what? So give me an example.
So I want you to go, before you go to bed, I want you to move a pair of slippers in front of your bed. Or I want you to move a robe by the back door. Or I want you to set your coffee to automatically make coffee. And I don't want it to be dishes. I don't want it to be cleaning. I don't want it to be laundry. I want it to be something specifically that has no reflection on, oh, you're doing good, right? So, oh, I cleaned my kitchen because I deserve it. No. Something that literally you experience an immediate, oh, that does feel good. Just that one thing.
I love that. I absolutely love that.
I am a productivity consultant. I've had a challenge with people. They know what they need to do, and this is my challenge as well. I know what I need to do. I know what needs to be done.
Right.
But getting that motivation and getting over that ledge and that 5-second rule, my goodness, changed my life. Things like doing my finances. I hate doing my finances. So I would 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 it, and next thing I knew, I was in QuickBooks.
Awesome.
And it started with little things. I haven't quite made it to not hitting snooze yet.
Okay. Why?
Oh, because my bed feels so comfy in the morning.
Let me tell you something.
Okay,
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Your business will go to the next level the second you actually beat the habit of hitting the snooze.
Yes.
And the reason why is because of the science around productivity and the brain.
Okay.
And when you push yourself to walk the talk and have the first 30 minutes of your day be the most productive for your brain, you will bring a level of conviction and authority and impact to the business that's not there currently.
Right.
You see, when you're an expert and you're a consultant, your power is limited to the extent that you personally feel like you're not using the tools. Does that make sense?
That does make sense.
I say this for myself. I say this because when I think about businesses that I've had in the past, or when I was an executive coach, and I would be giving advice, but I'm not technically following it in the same regard, I'm not as powerful.
Right.
And so I would highly, highly, highly encourage you, starting tomorrow morning, you want to be the best productivity coach on the planet, that alarm goes off, notice the gap.
Right.
Because the more that you start to play with this 5-second window and you go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you push yourself out of bed and you hate it, and then you take your cold shower and you hate it, and then you don't look at your phone and you hate it, and then you spend the first 30 minutes of the day pushing something forward and you hate it, but you do it, you will now be able to coach people who do the exact same thing.
Right. And that's where I'm coming from in a lot of my business is I've been there. I'm one who likes to pile things and procrastinate.
Yep.
But I know a lot of tips and tricks to get you out of those modes, and that's how I help my clients. I'm also trying to move more into productivity. I say I'm a professional organizer and productivity consultant, and I organize your space, your time, and your technology.
Great.
Which is a little bit different from most organizers because they're only focusing on their space or the time,
Right.
and not the technology.
So you can organize somebody's computer, somebody's workspace, and somebody's home.
Yeah.
That you can do and still snooze.
Yes.
You want to be successful and actually shift people's productivity, you got to do it for yourself
Right,
first.
right. That
And
makes
so
sense.
call BS on yourself and understand that, like, here's 2 years from now, how much money you want to be making? Like, no joke, as a
Yeah.
productivity, how much money you want to be
I
making?
want to be making at least $100,000 a year.
Fantastic. How are you going to feel?
Oh, empowered.
Yes, you're going to feel so empowered.
Yes.
I want you to think for a second about those zeros on that statement when you file your taxes,
Yeah.
about what you took in.
Yeah.
Now, tomorrow morning, when that alarm goes off and you start feeling all the excuses that come in, and that bed is cozy, I know what you're saying, I love my bed too, and you then go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you get up, I want you to be thinking about that $100,000. I want you to be thinking about how proud you are of yourself. And I want you to be thinking about how good it feels to demonstrate and walk the talk in terms of what you're actually coaching other people to
Right.
do. And if you do that and you show up every day and you think about that $100,000 and you think about what it's going to be like in 2 years when you have turned this corner, you will get out of bed. This is the corner for you,
Yes.
okay? And the piece of advice that I gave you is anchored in a lot of science. So when people think about their future selves, they did this experiment where they had 2 control groups decide to put away money in like a 401k from their paycheck. And before one group did it, they showed them a digitized photograph of themselves 20 years older. They put in more money because they were thinking about their future self.
That makes sense.
The people who were not shown that put in the average amount.
Yeah.
These people put in a significant amount of money without even being asked to because they were thinking about their future self.
I want you to think about that future self every single morning, and then I want you to use the 5-second rule to close the gap between the habit you have now and the person you want to become.
This is a productivity killer that most of us don't know about. It has to do with waking up. Now, when you think about being productive, if you got a big day and you got a bunch of stuff you need to get done, most of us focus on when. When do I need to get up in order to get everything done? That's not what you need to focus on. The thing that really impacts your productivity is how. How do you wake up? And here's the deal. If you're somebody like I used to be that hits the snooze button, that kills your productivity for at least 4 hours. Let me explain. You have to understand this. The snooze button creates a mental state, a state in your brain that is called sleep inertia. It's so bad it actually has a name. Here's what it is. When you and I go to bed, we sleep in cycles. We sleep in cycles of like 90 to 110 minutes all night long. And right before you wake up, the sleep cycles, they stop and your body goes into a wake-up mode, okay? Your brain is starting to slowly wake up so that it can start the day. When your alarm goes off, you're in wake-up mode. Your brain is now ready to do its best work. However, if the alarm goes off and you hit the snooze button, guess what you've just done? You've just made your brain go back into a sleep cycle. Your brain is now in a mode that takes about 90 to 110 minutes to complete. You just rebooted the system. So when your alarm goes off and you get up 15 minutes later, you're now in major trouble. And the reason why you're in trouble is because your brain is still locked into a sleep cycle. And this is where sleep inertia comes in. You know how when you hit the snooze button, you wake up and you're like, oh my gosh, I did not get enough sleep last night. You feel so groggy. You kind of feel like this mental hangover. That is sleep inertia. Here's the deal. Your brain, the cortic region of your brain, which is responsible for decision making, attention, alertness, self-control, that sucker is still in a sleep cycle. And now that you're awake, it's going to take the cortical region almost 4 hours to actually snap out of that sleep cycle. That's why you feel groggy. It's because the part of your brain that's responsible for critical thinking and being alert, it's actually still asleep. If you don't already do this, you've got to train yourself to be the kind of person that doesn't use the snooze alarm. Because when you hit the snooze alarm, you're not only putting your brain in a state of sleep inertia, you are directly impacting your productivity, your alertness, and your brain processing for the first 4 hours that you're awake. That's making life harder. I'm all about making life easier. So tomorrow, when the alarm goes off, I don't care how tired you are, I don't care how much you don't want to get out of bed, I want you to remember this. I want you to remember that you've got to wake up and give your brain its best shot to do its best work. And the way you're going to do it is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, turn off that alarm and get up. Seize the day and go be productive.
Can you explain why we sleep and why it's so important?
It's a great question, actually, not stupid at all. It's something that we've been looking for an answer to for the last 50 years, probably 70 years, and actually longer than that.
Wow.
But it's not easy to come up with an answer because there are so many answers. There's so many things happening during sleep that can't happen at any other time, that new answers keep bubbling up. So sleep is great for the immune system. It's great for cognition. It's great for the emotional system. It's great for growth and repair.
What is the difference between being awake and being asleep? Like, is there like a physiological or neurological
Yes.
difference between the two?
Yeah, it's huge, actually. So when we fall unconscious and into sleep, neurotransmitters, chemicals in our brain completely change their composition. So there's a set of neurotransmitters that are associated with wakefulness and being able to attend to the environment, have conversations, think thoughts. And they just completely switch when we fall asleep, so that one main one, which is called acetylcholine, which is really important for attention to the environment, switches off. And that's very characteristic of non-REM sleep, which is the first states we normally go into when we fall asleep. So acetylcholine turns off in animals that sleep unihemispherically.
What? Okay, that's a big word. What is unihemisphere? I can't even see the thing. Seriously.
Yes, unihemispherically means one hemisphere at a time. We have two hemispheres in our brain, and each hemisphere controls half of our body. And so the right hemisphere controls the left half of our body. So one hemisphere of the brain is asleep and the other hemisphere is awake. And the hemisphere that's asleep switches off the attention acetylcholine neurotransmitter, the chemical. But your brain is doing all kinds of essential things that can't be done during wakefulness. It's another quote-unquote work time. It feels quite different than waking work. Then you can justify, hey, I need this. I'm going to feel better. I'm going to be able to tackle my next day better.
Never even occurred to me that it goes way beyond rest, because what we're about to learn today is there's all these really critical health and mind health like functions that can only happen when part of the brain is in sleep mode. Is that right?
That's right.
Holy cow. Yeah. So why don't we start with what the perfect night's sleep, based on your 30 years of research.
Right.
What does a perfect night's sleep look like? Just so that we have a benchmark for what would be ideal.
I think if you just look at a 10-year-old, you'll get what the perfect night's sleep looks like. They sleep beautifully. They have a beautiful homeostatic, which means it responds to what you're doing during the day, response and how long you've been awake. They have a beautiful circadian, which means their body knows what time of day it is and what time they should go to sleep and what time they should wake up. And so the 10-year-old's sleep is perfect. Don't ever wake up a 10-year-old if you can possibly help it. They're doing a lot of really important things. And after that, our sleep changes during our teenage years, and we need just as much sleep as a 10-year-old, which is about 10 hours or 9 or 8 to 10 hours for sure. But teenagers' circadian rhythms change a little bit so that they fall asleep a little later and want to wake up a little later. So it's also a beautiful night's sleep if they are calm and not too engaged with social media at the wrong times. But anyway, that's a great night's sleep. Our sleep is actually pretty great until we're about 40 or 50 years old, and then varying depending on the individual, your sleep can start to become less efficient. And so
what does a perfect night's sleep look like in terms of how long you sleep, the various phases of sleep?
Right. Okay, so the perfect night's sleep for health as an adult is something around 7.5, 8 hours plus or minus an hour, something like that.
Okay.
You should be awakened by the sunlight, essentially. So that's something that resets our clock every day. And then so you kind of work back from there, from the time you need to awaken to get at least 7.5, 8 hours of sleep a night. Different people need different amounts of sleep. Some people need more like 9. Some people are fine with 6 for a while.
How do you know?
You just have to know from your own body. Some people, if they get 6 hours of sleep, they know already immediately when they wake up and going throughout the day, it wasn't enough. And so your body will tell you. And other people, wake up at 6 hours and they're fine. They feel great. And one way to know is how sleepy you feel during the day.
Okay.
Yeah.
You already said one takeaway that I want to make sure that you listening got from us, which is you start with the time that you want to wake up.
Mm-hmm.
And then you roll the clock backwards, and you're basically saying that it's 7 to 8 hours, give or take an hour.
Yeah.
So you roll the clock backwards, probably 7 to 9 hours.
Yeah.
And that's when you need to fall asleep.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And what happens when you fall asleep? Like, what are the phases that we go through as we're sleeping?
The very first stage is, of course, dozing. And we don't really know when we're dozing, except that, we sort of come conscious once in a while and say, oh, wow, okay, what happened in the last couple of minutes? I don't know. Because our memory starts not recording what we've been doing. And that lasts on average about 2 minutes before, for example, if you're reading a book and you fall asleep reading the book, you won't remember the last 2 minutes of reading. Or if you're listening to a podcast, you won't remember the last few minutes of the podcast before you actually fall asleep.
Or if I was talking to my husband and next thing you know, he's snoring.
Right.
He doesn't remember the last minute and a half of what I said.
That's exactly. Exactly.
So there's that dozing period, which I rather like. I love that sort of, you kind of drift from your mind spinning to all of a sudden almost like you're floating in a pool.
Right.
That only lasts 2 minutes?
No, stage 1 is variable. It's about, 2 to 5 minutes, something like that.
Okay, and you need that sort of stage 1 of dozing to get into stage 2. What happens next?
Then stage 2 is really an exciting stage. So between stage 1 and stage 2, there's something called hypnagogic hallucinations, which
I'm not even going to try. Hypnagogic hallucinations?
Hallucinations. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's our brain losing hold of reality, and all kinds of imagination things happen. For example, it can be as boring as feeling like you're falling off a step because not all of parts of your brain are asleep at the same time as you kind of drift into it. And so you feel the muscles relaxing and part of your brain says, I'm falling. And, and the hallucination is incorporated into that feeling of falling. And so you think, you're falling off a step.
Wait, is that why they call it falling asleep? That makes so much sense. And I have had that experience before where I do that dozing, my favorite part, kind of drift off into the pillow, but then I every night have like a jerking sensation. And it is like falling. It's almost like you're moving into the phase where your body is clumsily trying to turn your muscles off so you can drift into the deeper one. That's pretty cool. Now I know why I do that.
Or it can be as horrifying as feeling like there's a monster jumping on your chest and shaking you. And it can be very, very disturbing as well if you wake up from it. So they're pretty vivid hallucinations, almost like the dreams we have in REM sleep, only you don't have the atonia, which is all your muscles being inhibited to prevent you from acting out the dream. So oftentimes people, if they have a vivid hallucination that's scary, can wake up from that and then feel like, oh, what just happened? Was there a monster in my room? Really? I think that's the idea of nightmares. Comes from that idea of just the hallucinations, the weird hallucinations.
And this is as your brain is sort of trying to drop itself into a deeper state of sleep.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and not everybody, and most people, in fact, don't wake up from that. N2, it's called. N1 is dozing. N2 is that state of sleep which has pretty vivid dreams, kind of, but they're not long story-like dreams like we have in REM sleep, but we'll get to that in a minute. So then from N2, which our brain is very active, we go into N3, which is also a time of activity, but it's really synchronous activity, like waves of activity going through our brain, and it's disconnected in time, one wave from another, so consciousness can't be maintained. And if you wake someone up out of N3 sleep, slow wave sleep, and ask them what they were dreaming, they will not report having dreamed anything. It will be, a blank slate. And it's actually pretty hard to wake someone up out of that state. It's called a deep sleep.
And what's the purpose? You use the word wave. Like what is actually happening in your body when you're in that third phase and the wave is happening?
Yeah. So that's a time when we know that our brain is cleaning itself, actually.
Wait, what?
Yes.
It's cleaning itself?
Yeah, it's cleaning itself.
Of what?
Of all the junk that builds up during the daytime when we're awake and alert.
What kind of junk builds up?
Well, proteins get unfolded and, so things break down, energy is used. All of that gets restored in that deep state of sleep. So,
what would happen if you didn't get that deep stage of sleep and the cleaning wave? I'm seeing like somebody coming in after a big party and cleaning up all the cups.
Right.
It's like this wave comes through your brain?
It's like a wave cleansing the brain, yes. And there's one per minute or so, actually one per second, actually. So a lot more often than that. And it sweeps from front to back. And it just pushes all the junk into your cerebral spinal fluid and out into your
Is that why my
body.
back hurts?
I don't think
just
so,
kidding.
but yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, so if you don't get it, you actually don't get a chance to clean your brain like that. So you really need it. And that's the sleep you get mostly in the first half of the night after you fall asleep. So you go from N1 to N2 to N3. N3 lasts, 20 to 30 minutes or so, and then you go back into N2 briefly, and then into REM sleep, which is it's called REM sleep. And
How is that different than the waves? So
it's very different. It's actually also called paradoxical sleep because if you look at brain activity, it looks just like someone's awake.
really, why?
And thoughts are going through, and dreams are happening. It's really strong imagery in your dreams, and that's when if you wake someone up out of that state of REM sleep, they will always report a dream, 90% of the time. Even people who, if you ask, say, oh, I never dream or I never remember my dreams, if you wake them up out of that stage, they'll remember. It's the reason why I think the reason why people don't remember their dreams is because they are solidly asleep and don't wake up out of that state. So don't worry, you are dreaming.
Hey, it's Mel. Thank you so much for being here. If you enjoyed that video, by God, please subscribe because I don't want you to miss a thing. Thank you so much for being here. We've got so much amazing stuff coming. Thank you so much for sending this stuff to your friends and your family. I love you. We create these videos for you, so make sure you subscribe. Mwah.